I'm Ivy.
I'm Rachel, and we are Swords and Sapphics, a podcast all about representation, queer media, women with a capital W, and a little bit of nonsense.
So start sharpening your swords, sip your tea, and join us as we obsess over the wonderful beings that are women. Hello.
Hello.
What are we talking about today? Or perhaps with whomst?
Whomst. Well, whomst we are talking to is the Librorians. They are another podcasting duo. Um, and that's it. Just say.
This is gonna be a sort of a two-part episode where the first part is us interviewing them, which you will get to listen to in a short minute, and then you can hear them interviewing us. We were in the hot seat then, and you can find that episode on their podcast, Librorians, like bros.
Bros Librorians.
Precisely. You'll find all the links in the description of this episode on our website. Yeah. But before we get to that, I would like to talk about my plans.
Talk about your plans.
I'm a
Go
plant
for it.
mother, y'all. I'm embracing the bisexual that's not prejudice, what is it? Stereotype. There we go.
Hmm.
I want the velvety green couch, but it's expensive as fuck. I have my plants now. I'm in the middle of replanting them because it's spring and I take care of my children. I found out that I was overwatering one of my beautiful, beautiful children. Her name is Arachne, as you know, a spider, because she's like spidery. Not really. You don't get it unless you would see a picture. That doesn't matter. Right now we're in the middle of a very delicate situation. I'd like everyone to just, keep us in their thoughts. I believe we can pull through it, but we'll see. We'll see. I've been
I'm
training for this.
You know, you've got it. You'll be fine.
Yeah.
I trust in you and I trust in her.
I mean, I've been in a surgery with Derek Shepherd. I and with Meredith Grey. Speaking of, I have a plant named Meredith Grey.
Mhm.
She survived my replanting. She survived my taking care of her. She survived falling out of a plane. She can survive anything. That's why I named her Meredith.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have little Monstera plant, which is, the greatest thing ever. And I call her Nesta. And there is a little baby, so every morning now I'm sending Rachel an update about the baby. But so far there's not many updates. I forgot to post one today because it's been a busy, busy day.
It has been a busy, busy day.
Yeah.
For those who are interested, we're recording this on the same day that we talked to Rachel McLean.
Mhm.
Actually, oh wait, this is going out before we talk to Rachel.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll be posting Rachel McLean's episode in Pride Month.
On the 5th of June. Yeah.
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 So no thoughts, head empty.
It's been a day.
That's been a day.
We
Been a fun.
technically did 3 episodes today because we
Yeah.
also did, yeah.
Hmm. But it was good fun.
Yeah. It's always fun to meet new people,
It
especially
really
in the
is.
same community. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm a bit of a hermit, so like this is my socializing really. Like I don't talk to I'm not surrounded by a huge amount of queer people in the real world, like my except for my best friend, not Ivy, a different best friend.
Oh, it is.
So, and my auntie is a lesbian, but like in general, like of my generation of queer people, I don't really get to socialize with anybody else. So it's always really nice to just talk to different people who I wouldn't usually talk to. I really enjoy doing this podcast. I have to say it. I've been really, especially recently, like we've had some really great books that people are just giving to us so we can read them and talk about them and talk to the authors. And that's really nice.
It really, really is. It's
Yeah.
just it may you know like every time someone like contacts us for anything or just it's good to see that what we're doing does something. Like we're not just
Yeah.
I don't know.
And speaking of that, we've been doing Camp Sapphic, which is almost over by the time this episode goes out.
Mhm.
But we basically replaced NaNoWriMo because of all the kind of stuff that was going on there with minors being unsafe in that space. We was like, I think it was Melina and I was kind of like, we should still do it in this server. So that's where Camp Sapphic was born, and we hope to do it again. But we had so many new people coming to us from that because obviously people are still looking for writing challenges to do, and it was really fun, and like our hashtag is super active on Twitter and Instagram. People, we have daily prompts, so we're talking about it every day. um the project itself I'm not doing well with anymore. I haven't written it for a week, but just in general, like being able to do things and have them work is like it's so nice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, just to provide people with a place to go,
Mm.
place to talk to. It's really nice.
Yeah. And what's really great is that we've been getting more coffee donations, which we're extremely grateful for. And we're also, of course, always kind of needing very grateful to get more.
Yeah, absolutely. And most of those come from the blog posts that we do on our blog.
Yeah.
Fuck's sake. You know, the thing about me is that I never know where my sentence might go.
It's a surprise.
It's a surprise. But yeah, so every week we post, well, most weeks we post guest pieces or guest interviews on our blog from authors and creators. Um, yeah, so there's always something happening with us if this is your first time tuning in and you didn't know. And we have lots to offer. We have lots to offer. You can join our Discord.
And yeah, and we have so much more to come. Like this season is packed with
Mm-hmm.
many, many amazing guests, which is really
Yes.
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
What we didn't talk about is, and I want it, I do really want it on record, is that I bought God Killer, which is a book that Rachel's been recommending for ages. And I got it. Uh, and again, I want it to be on record. Thank you. Thank you
I'm
kindly.
so proud and I'm so happy.
Yeah.
I kept telling her to buy it. And now I feel nervous because I just know that it's the vibe she's looking for, but the only thing is that it's such a fun read, but like I'm not desperate to go
Mm.
pick it back up again. Like I'm happy when I get to, but it's taken me quite a few weeks to read,
Yeah.
and I hope that doesn't like dissuade you from not reading it. Like I hope you don't start it and then because you don't have that desire to immediately kind of get through it, that you don't want to read it anymore.
I have to say, like, it's at this point, because I'm also very tired, it's been a while since I held that kind of a book anyway.
I know,
Like,
same for me.
yeah, like I'm enjoying the most of them tremendously. Like right now, I'm reading Kingsbane by Claire Legrand. And I love it. I love it every time I pick it up, but it's just I don't have the energy to be like actively excited about it when I'm not reading it,
Yeah,
which is
I
just
get
sad.
that. I'm the same. And life is so busy and so exhausting that it's hard to kind of persevere with books that you're not super 100% obsessed with.
Yeah.
But this one is just really good. Like the the vibe is just immaculate. The fantasy setting is really great, and the character is just my favorite genre of woman. She burps. She's tough, and she's a kind of an assassin, a god killer. I see one
Oh
live.
Lord.
And she's sapphic, and I actually I think I bought it more for the cover and just the little bit that I'd heard about it. First of all, the disability rep in there is amazing. She wears a prosthetic. Her One of her friends is deaf, and her other friend is in a wheelchair, I think. But the only thing I'm not sure of is whether there's going to be a romance because I don't know if the character is a lesbian or bipan.
Mhm.
So, but there's like, regardless, there's another character there called Ello who works for the king, and they have a really good dynamic going on right now. So I'm really excited, just whether regardless of whether it's romance or just platonic.
Hmm. This is a little unrelated, but Echo, the superhero from Marvel, she has also a prosthetic leg, and during a fight with Daredevil, they managed to like the way she fights, like she's using that prosthetic in her fight. It was like there was this like very genius moment where she like put her leg up and then with her hand like hit the pros like with the prosthetics Daredevil. It was just so it's very difficult to describe, but it's really good and like it's exciting to see more of other in everything. Especially
Mhm.
now, recently there was like this very stupid discourse about like disabled people being in fantasy.
Oh yeah.
Which was just enraging. So it's really great to see more.
Yeah. That discourse was like, oh, there's no reason why your character needs to be disabled in fantasy because magic exists. They wouldn't be in a wheelchair. They would find a magical cure. And that's completely not the point. Like, it's up to the author, first of all, how that world works and how
Mhm.
disability exists within it.
Yeah, and how the
Um,
pe person like what they do with it and how
yeah,
they
exactly.
like. There's so many factors, and it's just
Yeah.
ugh.
There's, like, even as I delve more into the autism community, there's a lot of people who see it more as a superpower because there's so many positive traits that comes with autism. Like, and then there are of course people who kind of, like with every other disability, who kind of mourn like the health side of things because at the end of the day it still is a disability. And I feel like that's especially valid in fantasy. Like, we deserve to see people there who are not just able-bodied
Yeah,
characters.
yeah, exactly.
And I think people sometimes forget that it's fiction, and there's always going to be a creative license there with how you can, how you decide to go about with anything.
Yeah.
And arguably, like, the magical cure storyline is just a lazy way of doing it when
Mhm.
disabilities are always going to be super complex things.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyway, this does not match the tone of our episode at all.
No,
So,
not at all. Not at all. But I also have to say that I also got An Education in Malice by S.D. Gibson,
oh yeah.
which I'm so excited for, which they are Sapphic vampires. We've talked about what's it called?
The
Diary.
Dowry of Blood.
Yeah, right. That one. It's also so very good. One of the books that I would always recommend. I
Yeah.
was like, what is there? And that was my five. I just want to read, but I don't have the time or
Yeah.
energy.
Same. I just want to catch up on everything that I
Yeah.
love, and
Yeah.
there's so many books to read. I can see my stack is slowly tilting and it's gonna fall.
Well, it's very Italian of you.
It is the Leaning Tower of Pisa.
Yeah. Yeah. I also started on TikTok getting like a little previews of a game that I got, Edith Finch something.
Oh yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't see it, but but like people are loving it. But I already bought it like months ago, and I'm like,
Mm,
I want to play, but I also want to read,
you
but I
know,
also want to watch all my shows, but I want to read, but I want to play.
I spent my entire afternoon on Disney because there's you get events on Disney where you have to do quests within a certain amount of time to get tokens to then get prizes. I hate knowing that I didn't get all the prizes, so I've been on it all afternoon. And also, we both bought a in Time, which we adamantly said we weren't going to do at one point because we already paid for the base game. And then they came out with this expansion where you had to pay around the same amount that it was for the original game. But then we got it anyways.
Yeah. Look, it's my mother's fault as everything in my life going wrong.
Mhm.
She upset me and I wanted to spite her, so I bought something she wouldn't approve of, and it was very good. So I texted Rachel and she got it also. But
Yeah.
I was very just I just showed her that I got it. Nothing else.
Well, yeah. Mm-hmm.
You can't blame me. That's what I'm saying.
And you get Rapunzel.
You do.
I love Rapunzel. And you get capybaras and monkeys
Yeah.
and
I,
like
yeah. Yeah. And also the thing is, on the like in the like first village, I was running out of place because I kept buying the new houses
mm.
and I needed more place to put them to. But
I
it's good.
haven't got any new clothes yet though, and that's one thing that's upsetting me. I thought I'd have more in the shop.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's get to the interview then.
Let's get to it. Enjoy.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank
First,
you.
let's start with the basics. How did you meet?
At work. Like any good love story, we met at work. Hold my hands, hold my hands, hold my hands. I work as the children's librarian at our workplace, and there was an opening for a similar position for the adult and teen section. And Luca plopped
Yeah,
into our laps, and now
yeah.
the rest is history.
I got hired at their job, and then we, through forced proximity, we became friends.
It was very much like, oh, I like your D&D tattoo.
Yeah, but I don't know how to communicate with people normally, so I basically came up to you and accosted you, and I was like, "You're gonna DM for my D&D group,"
That's pretty
and
much
you were
what
like, "Yeah, I am, yeah."
and then you're gonna join my baseball team,
yeah,
and then I'm like, we're gonna just go to the gym together. It's gonna be
Yeah.
great. Like, and I was
Yeah.
like, all right, cool, yeah,
we slowly built up different activities that we do together.
yeah. We
That's so sweet.
our relationship is built on physical activities together.
So how did the podcast come to be? What made you decide to start recording yourselves?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Why do we do this?
Well, you about I want to say 6 months into your tenure at job, you were like, we just got this book in and it looks really bad. And it was
Yeah.
a contemporary YA about real life Quidditch, like playing Quidditch in real life.
Oh no.
And it was very awful. And you're like,
Mhm.
Luca was like, we have to read this. We have to read this. You have to read this with me. And I was like, all right, fine. And we just kept ragging on the book and we're like,
Mhm.
this is great. Like, this is good material.
Right.
You could start a religion with this.
And so we started amassing like a list of different books that we thought were like interesting or weird, or like this looks like it's going to be something that we could get like an hour of material just like being funny
Ragging,
about,
yeah,
being
ragging.
funny to each other about.
Mhm.
It's still out there whether as to whether like
Anyone else thinks
thinks
it's funny.
Yeah,
But it's for
or
us.
interesting.
It's for us. It's our like our basically our book diary together. Our
Yeah.
funny read diary.
Yeah. It's like we don't really care, I guess, too much if anyone's listening. It's great that people are listening to it. Like there's some people like we have
some friends that listen to it.
Yeah, we
They will
have
give us like
friends
great
and
feedback and be like, I
some-
like this part. But
and we have a couple regular listeners in India, I think you
yes,
said.
we do have listeners in India that I was like, I was just so stoked. I was like, wow.
Yeah, so
5 people.
we've gotten some people on board like listening to it, which is great, and it's good to have that following to like keep us
Mhm.
going with it.
Yeah.
But we're also both like really busy people, so we can only do it so often. We definitely couldn't do a weekly schedule.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
can
tried
really.
that. It didn't work. Now our schedule is every other Wednesday sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, ours is every other Sunday. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. God willing.
It
Yeah.
is what it is.
It is what it
Yep.
is.
Um, so why would you think like why should people tune in? What do your episodes entail? What is something that can draw people in?
Well, I think
I like to think I'm funny.
this is very true. I don't think we give particularly insightful commentary on books, but I do think it's like a lot of fun. I know a lot of people on the internet, specifically like on book Twitter and booktube, are like, let's stop with like the negativity, let's stop with the negativity. But people love it when you hate on a book. They love it. And I think that for the most part, when you dislike a book, you're more willing to like go through and like analyze the parts that you don't like. Whereas opposed if you like something, you're like, that was great. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when we first started, like there were some books that we read that we ended up liking, or some books that we ended up on the fence on,
Yeah.
and we didn't have as much that was interesting to say about those books as we did about the books that we were like viscerally offended by.
Such as I would say our magnum opus is Lightlark, in which we fan casted the whole thing
Mhm.
with the characters from Victorious.
I mean, she does have the movie rights sold,
Allegedly.
so
Allegedly.
we need to get in contact with whoever has the
Yeah.
movie rights so
I-
that we can create them
Yeah,
and make it better than her book.
yeah, I think our podcast is a mix of good humor, just getting to listen about the books you may not want to read, but be like, oh, this is like a fun little hour to just listen about
Mhm.
something I have no idea about.
We do talk about books that we enjoy, but we save that for the very end
Yeah.
of the podcast.
Also, you should tune into our podcast if you enjoy beverages, because we
Yeah.
talk about beverages.
We talk about beverages a lot. We
lot.
start out every podcast talking about
Oh, and saw
like,
traps. We also talk about
and
saw
saw
traps
traps
a lot.
We talk about the beverages that we're drinking,
And
and
if people can
and
escape
if
saw traps.
people can escape saw traps. Yeah.
And books sometimes.
Yeah. We've considered turning this into a beverage podcast.
No, we haven't. Next question.
Well, at least that's a
I-
good, you could get some to pay your money for
I'm
yeah,
just like Ghost Energy,
Yeah.
please sponsor.
There we go. I
I'm
know.
drinking a Ghost Energy drink at least every other podcast episode.
Can you imagine if we were sponsored by Monster Energy? Like it's us and like the motocross.
Yeah.
Like they
Oh.
like their two major sponsorships is like Librorians and the Monster dirt bike whatever the hell
Yeah,
that thing is
yeah,
that
yeah,
those
yeah,
guys
yeah.
do where they flip over mountains on
That would be
bikes.
pretty iconic.
So what is the most and see, I can't talk already. Enjoyable aspect when recording or putting out a podcast, and what is the most difficult part?
Getting together to talk about books for like an hour and a half can be
Yeah.
a little challenging. We do spend a lot of like I see this
Arguably too much time.
Yeah, I'm in a long distance relationship right now. I physically see Luca more than I physically see my partner right now. Like, and yet it's just like, hey, do you have time to record this week? I got band practice,
Yeah.
or "Ooh, we have baseball, or like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm playing D&D with a different group
Yeah, because we work together, we're just together all
all
the
the
time.
time.
But that also means that there are so many times where we're like, we start talking about the book
And
and
we
we're
go
like,
like,
no,
"No,
stop it.
save it
Stop
for the
it. Save
pod.
it for the
Save it for
podcast.
the pod."
Save it for the podcast.
I think my favorite, oh my hands,
Oh my god.
oh my hands, my favorite part about doing this podcast with you
I
is
feel like, are you sure you're in another relationship or are you lying about it?
okay, don't touch me. My favorite part about recording the podcast with Luca is it's just a lot of fun to just talk about a book with somebody. That's always been my favorite thing about reading, is like how it can bring people together. I've always loved book clubs. I love recommending books. One of my favorite part of doing my job is doing readers advisory and
Yeah.
connecting patrons with a book that they will love.
Absolutely.
And it's more fun for me to be like, here's a book that we will absolutely
God.
hate. Let's talk
Thank
about
God.
it together.
Amazing.
I like doing a fun activity with my bestie. I also like talking about books
Yeah.
as a librarian. I also like being a hater.
Yeah, yeah. We do drink that haterade.
Yeah.
Amazing. I'm obsessed.
We're just two little guys.
What do you hope listeners will enjoy or take away from your episodes?
Hmm.
That this is all in good fun, that our commentary is not necessarily commentary on the personal lives or
Absolutely.
the morality of reading these books or their authors, and that we are just here to have fun. And if anyone is related to the author, they should probably not listen to it. If you like the books, probably also don't listen to it.
But
That's
the
the
thing
main
is,
takeaway
I
from me.
feel like we're coming from a place as librarians where we see so much of this kind of mindset from people who are like trying to ban books and stuff, where they're like, I feel like these people feel in their heads that they're like, oh, I have the power to take books away from other people just because I don't like it. And we're coming from a place of like, I don't like these books, but never have I ever or will I ever say that I could take these books away from you, or like, because like at the end of a lot of episodes, you're like, should this book be banned? And I'm like, we are never talking about
Yeah, but
that.
I
We're
always
never
say no. I
it's-
always say
it's
no.
so funny the way you say that
Yeah.
because like no books should be banned, but I think it's amazing that we have the ability to say whatever the hell we want about media, and that
yeah.
there's so much different stuff out there to enjoy and take in and not enjoy
Yeah. Yeah.
and expel.
I think another part is that, like, again, we're not making any moral judgments on people when it comes to reading a book. If you read that book and you enjoy it, honestly, good for you. Because there's a book out there, there's a book for every reader and a reader for every book.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that isn't us. And we sometimes choose the books that are not for us just so we can have fun.
Yeah, we do the same thing with like films. We watched Purple Hearts just to hate it.
Oh,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
it was
I know
awful.
all about Purple Hearts, baby.
I don't. You'll have to clue me
Well,
in
yeah,
on
I'll
that
I'll
later.
tell you about it later.
I love a good hate watch though. Good hate read.
Yeah, a good hate.
A good
Something.
hate.
Yeah, a good hate.
Yeah.
So what is your favorite part about being a librarian? You did mention it briefly.
You can go first.
Oh, so I'm a children's librarian, and honestly, I didn't think that that would be the position I would be in. I thought I would be a teen librarian.
Okay.
But I've fallen in love with being a children's librarian. I love how earnest and fun they are. Kids are just tiny humans that wear their emotions and their interests on their shirts and on their sleeves, so you know exactly what to talk to them about. And they are just so excited to be there, especially when they love the library. They just love being in there and love talking to you. That's my favorite part of being a librarian, is like the patron interactions and making that community connection with people.
Yeah.
You're like, same.
I was gonna say next question. No, I feel like, I mean, I'm an adult librarian, adult and teen. And what I enjoy most about it is, yes, I love readers advisory. That's like one of my favorite parts of the job, is like when a patron asks like, do you have any recommendations for books? And I'm like, I can show you the world. Like,
Follow me.
yeah, I love I also love just being in the library
Yeah.
as a physical location.
A big thing that we end up doing a lot of when we're on not working, because we have flip schedules sometimes. It'll be like, I haven't been in the library in 24 hours. I need to go to like a bookstore or something.
Yeah, like I have to go to a different public library.
When I visit my partner, I'm like, I have to go to a bookstore or a library in Boston, please.
Yeah.
Or I will just perish.
Yeah,
That's
it's just
a
like
good
the
excuse to be able to
atmosphere of
Sorry, that's
Go
a
ahead.
good excuse to be able to spend money on books.
It's
Yeah.
true. It's true. I try not to spend money on books though. You are more of a collector than I am.
I do like having a nice collection of
I
books.
used to buy a ton of books like secondhand, and I would have like, I had a huge collection of books and I had to get rid of a lot of them when I moved. So I just try not to spend money on books anymore, because working at the library, like I have everything at my fingertips.
I
and-
do what I do at bookstores at the library now, where I'll be like, all right, I am bringing back I have 3 books in my backpack. I am returning 2 of them. And then this one is the one I'm going to read on my lunch break. And I'm not going to come home with many more books. And then I go home and there's like 5 other books in my book bag now. And I'm like, oh, fuck me.
Yeah. It happened
It
again.
happened again. You know,
But I also love I really like programming. I like doing D&D with
yeah.
the teens. That's always a lot of fun. Um I think the most rewarding part of my job is like introducing new not even programs, but I really like collection development a lot and like ordering new books and staying up to date on the newest books. I'm always like 2 to 3 months ahead of whatever's happening in the book world.
I'm not.
Um
I make
and
suggestions for collection development. I'm not in charge of that in my department.
like I've worked on introducing a lot of new things to the library, like the seed library, the puzzle swap, the new furniture in the teen space, and about to start working right now on a
Board
I didn't
game.
even tell you that we're starting on this. The board game and video game collection is finally actually take off soon.
Yay!
So I really like working on that kind of stuff, like projects and developing new services and collections.
Yeah, and I prefer the customer service side of things.
Mm.
Together we make one really good library.
What was the first book you read that really made you feel seen, if any?
Hmm.
Interesting.
think
Yeah,
about
that's like I have to go back into like the middle school, like all these books.
The first book that made me feel seen.
I have an idea.
Go ahead, because I'm
So
still
I
thinking.
have 3, and Luca's gonna be so sick of me when I list the first 2.
I know one of them is Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School.
Oh, okay. You're gonna be sick of me when I say 3 of all 3 of them. So the first one is Percy Jackson. I was had undiagnosed ADHD all throughout my life until I got into college, and
I figured you were gonna say that one,
and
but
it
I wasn't
became
sure.
diagnosed, and it was very severe. And suddenly, like a lot of the things that I like connected with Percy Jackson as a character and also as a book series like finally clicked. Like I had mentioned that to my parents a few times where it's just like the things that he says in the books are like very similar to the things that I feel like I experience in my day-to-day life, and they were like, no, that's not, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. And then I was like, oh no, I should have worried about it, and now I'm almost about to fail out of college. I didn't though. The next one is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I went to a small liberal arts
I
all
figured you would say
yeah,
Legendborn too.
all women's college in the American South, that has like severe, like really a long history with slavery. And the book is about a very kind of similar situation of the main character attending a much larger a college in the South with slavery, with ties to slavery, and her navigating that. And so that felt very like a lot of the things that were being said was just felt so realistic, like the cognitive dissonance between, like being an activist on campus and then like living in a dorm named after a guy known as like the Indian hunter, like is just like the
Yikes.
little things that you have to do in order to like survive in that kind of environment felt really realistic. And then the last one is the Lesbiana's Guide to Catholic School, because that one was like, you gay Hispanic child, like me. It's like, do you have parental?
God?
Yeah, and it's just like, do you have mommy and daddy issues? I'm like, "Yeah, I do, I do." And also going to a Catholic school and like being kind of out but not entirely out, and like having to navigate like peers being weird to you for being queer in a Catholic school, but also the administration not helping you and being weird about you being queer in a Catholic school. And just like the forced outing, and the fallout from all of that. It just felt very and it had a good happy ending, which made me feel really good. I was like, oh, I needed this. All right. I gave you enough time to think. So
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
We're getting Skyped again.
I'm getting Skyped.
In the year of our Lord
Yeah.
2024. Like, why do you even have that on your computer? I didn't even know Skype still worked.
No, I thought they canceled it completely like 2 years ago.
Did they?
Yeah,
Well, I
I thought
know.
so.
Apparently not.
It's calling me from the dead.
The last person to have a Skype on their laptop.
Yeah. It's what is it? The last man.
They're messaging you. They're like, please undownload Skype.
Let it finally. It's like what is that? What is that?
Let us.
What is that scary short story where it's like the last man, like the last man on Earth hears a knock at the door, like the last person with Skype on their computer gets a call.
Is the last Skype employee trying to finally
just be like,
come on?
Yeah.
It might be a time traveler.
extension or extended warranty. All right, pick a book.
I was actually gonna say, like, you had something so deep to say, and I feel like, for me, I think, I don't know, for a long time I was very repressed, so I feel like when I was younger, I didn't really, and because there just weren't a lot of them, I didn't read much books with, queer characters in them until I was older, and I was like, wow, that's like me. Like when I read Gideon the Ninth, I was like, holy fuck. I was like, holy shit. That is
Wow.
a butch lesbian, and she's like the main character of this
Yeah.
book. Like that is slay. And I really connected with that book for that reason, just like seeing queer characters in a book. And it like felt like that book was written for me, you know? Like there's swords, there's lesbians, we're in outer space. They're mad at each other. Like what more can I ask for?
Toxic Yuri.
Yeah.
The most toxic Yuri.
I think that, but when I was younger, I used to read and reread over and over again. Was it Calvin and Hobbes?
Oh.
And I was kind of a kid who kind of had a very like Calvin, who had a very like kind of internal world because I was an only child like him, and I would kind of just like do my own thing, and like creativity and imagination was a very big part of my childhood in that way. And like the way Calvin and Hobbes is that like he has a very you know, creative and large, robust internal world, and that's kind of what you're seeing in the comic. And there's not a lot of other characters other than him and his imaginary friends and his imagination. And also like just like the idea of like every day, like every panel, not every panel, every strip was him like playing outside or doing something outside, and like that was kind of what my childhood was like. Like I was constantly outside doing some stuff with like either by myself or my neighbor. So like that was like it was like very much a character that was a lot like my own life, and he was also very like precocious, and I was always told from a young age like that I always had like a very extensive vocabulary and stuff like that. So I just really related to that character a lot, and I would just reread Calvin and Hobbes over and over and over again.
He has a kid now, you know.
Calvin?
Yeah, they call her
He
Bacon.
can't have a kid. He's like
he's an adult in
character.
like the new ones.
What do you mean the new ones?
There are new
What are you
ones.
talking about?
I've
They're
seen
not
it.
new ones.
I've seen them.
You're making this up.
I'm not.
Bill Watterson wrote a new one that is not
Okay, whatever.
related to
Anyway.
Calvin and Hobbes, but
Anyway. Next question.
Anywho,
I'm not taking any more questions from you. From these lovely people, I will be.
I'm gonna look that up later. Anyway, go on.
so we touched on it a little bit, but what is it like to be a librarian at the minute with all the kind of censorship and bans?
Whoa! Do you want to go this time? Do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. I'm not gonna say it's easy, but I'm also not gonna say it's difficult. I think the job comes with its own difficulties just in general, as any job does. I think it is definitely you know, I think it depends on where you are. The job is going to be a lot more stressful, and it depends on your position. Like if you are a supervisor or director in like a very in a very urban library with a high amount of just patron population in general, and also just like a large homeless population or a large impoverished population, like that's going to be harder on you than like somewhere where we work, which is just like a suburban community. But at the same time, the climate around librarianship, especially as queer librarians, can be a little bit scary just knowing what's going on around us in our country.
Mhm.
Fortunately, we're in a very liberal state, And so, but you still see things popping up here and there, like book challenges, and we actually had someone write
So
a article in
yeah.
the newspaper about a display that Anderson made, because this person was like, oh, they're putting all of it. Was it about queer books on
Yes,
display?
it
Yeah,
was
they
it
were like
was
they're putting all these queer books and like trying to indoctrinate our
it was
children
during
into their
Pride
gay agenda because of Pride Month, blah blah blah. And so like that's super disheartening, but it's like we also have a very supportive staff of people around us and also a lot of patrons who don't think that way. So a lot of the time, yeah, that can be scary, but it's also like I always remind myself like that people that think that way are kind of few and far in between. Um, like and like they've done research into showing that the people who are looking at or trying to challenge books and trying to like make a large scale like book challenges and removals are like a very small population of people doing a lot of them.
Mhm.
So that can be reassuring, but it's also a little bit scary, especially as someone who is like just coming out as trans, someone who is I've been visibly queer for my whole life, but like um coming out as trans now is like it's a scary thing to know what the atmosphere around teachers and librarians who are queer is like. But at the same time, I'm like being who I am in the profession I'm in, and doing it with like a headstrong attitude, um is going to be like inspirational for other people who see me doing that and want to do it, or younger people who need a role model like that in their lives. And that's how I felt when I was a teacher and I was queer and out, and that's how I feel as a librarian who's queer now. Like I'm never going to stop being who I am regardless of what anyone says or what um a select few people think. That happens to be a very harmful opinion.
Yeah, I would. Ditto, same. Yeah, being a very visibly trans, very visibly queer, librarian has garnered. Oh, Jesus Christ!
No.
No, we have 10 minutes. We'll be very fast. We'll be very fast. Um,
We can start a second recording. It's
yeah.
fine.
It has been very not scary. I feel like our jobs are very cushy. We live in a we work at a very nice community.
Mhm.
And for the most part, again, like the people who are doing any of the weird stuff are very few and far between in our area, thankfully.
Mhm.
But when they're in your face, they are in your face about it. But the thing that really pisses me off, and this is an American thing. This is a Southern versus North thing, not the Civil War. In the South, people will be very upfront that they don't like you. They'll be
Mhm.
very vocal about like their racism, their homophobia, their transphobia. And for the most part, that means that you can avoid them very easily. But up here, a lot of people like to be kind of like fake polite about it.
Mhm.
So the woman who wrote that article about my display, the same day the article was released, came into the library and like checked books out from me with like a smile on her face. Like, and I was just like, and a couple hours later, I found out that she wrote that about like my display, and I was
Yeah.
like, at least pretend, like, at least say that you don't like me, like.
Mhm. I can relate to that too because I had that patron who wrote that angry letter who did not display any anger towards me or anything, and then wrote this whole letter about how I should get fired because I didn't make eye contact with her and because I can have a little bit of a deadpan demeanor sometimes. And for those of you, if you know, you know. But
Yeah.
like
I know.
Blocked.
yeah. It's like and then it was just this whole letter about how I should get fired and how I'm awful at my job and stuff, and it's like I don't even know who this person was. Like if you showed me this person in a lineup, I would not know who they were because they did not display any of this outwardly towards me, but were just like I guess holding it in the whole time and just like outwardly displaying like niceties and politeness. And I'm like I
Get
wish you would
wrecked.
just say it with your chest because
Just-
that would make me feel a little
Yeah,
bit
some
better
days
than
I'm
if
just like, just
I
call me
knew
a
who you
slur.
were. Yeah.
Just call me a slur so we can so I can just get this done and over with.
Yeah.
All right, I'm tired.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
I would need a formal letter.
Yeah.
What book would you recommend as a must read to any library goer? This feels like an
Oh.
insane jump from what we just discussed.
Yeah,
It
no,
does.
this is fine. It depends. It depends. What are you interested in? Do you like fantasy, contemporary, horror? There's too many to choose from. Getting the
Mm.
ninth. I made my decision.
Any library goer?
Any library goer.
Care and keeping of you. I feel like that's pretty that
No.
spans a lot of people.
That spans like 50% of them.
Yeah, so
Any library goer?
Okay, so what book would you recommend most often? Have you caught yourself like recommending quite frequently a certain book?
Legendborn for me. It's always
Mm.
Legendborn. I'm always recommending Legendborn. It's one of my favorite YA novels.
I still can't even say because like people usually ask me like for genre recommendations and stuff like that, and I actually find myself recommending there's a controversy around this author, but I'm gonna say it anyway. The House in the Cerulean Sea a lot, just because it's a very easy and palatable read to a lot of different people, especially people who like want to read a fantasy, but they're not into high fantasy or epic fantasy. And they like a cozy story. There, there's no smut in it, but there's a little bit of romance. There's cute characters in it, so it's very palatable across the board. So I find myself recommending that a lot just because of like how far reaching like the enjoyment could be from that. Not to even speak of the controversy with the author, which is super unfortunate, but I try to look at it from an angle of like if you didn't know anything about the author whatsoever, like you could enjoy the story.
I mean, and most people don't, do they? Like, that's the thing. It's hard to find any author nowadays because
Yeah.
you're so aware of everything that's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't like completely.
But it's also
Yeah.
it's a very interesting juxtaposition because unless you're on the internet all the time and looking
Yeah.
up everything about every single author,
Yeah.
like the average reader is just being like, "Oh, that book looks good," reading it, and then they don't care about the author, like who the author is, like at
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we're nearly done. So, we always talk about what we're currently enjoying. So, is there anything you want to shout about? It doesn't have to be books, it can be anything.
You go first.
I'm currently playing a game called Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, and it is very lovely.
Yeah,
I
I played
really
it.
love
I
that
got
game.
stuck. I can't get over it. I didn't open it since, but I loved it. It's
And
so
I'm
good.
having so much fun with it. It's so cute, and I'm very sad about it for some reason. I'm like, it's a game called Turnip Boy Commits Tax Evasion, and yet I am like very sad.
And there's another one, Turnip Boy Robs a Bank.
Oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
did not know
Oh.
that.
Yeah.
He's just doing so many
crimes.
Um,
Yeah.
I as far as video games go, I just finished Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu, which is one of the small handful of Pokemon games that I've actually completed. Usually I get maybe halfway through and then it gets too redundant for me. But I like that in that game you can choose whether to interact with Pokemon instead of it's just like whoa, wild whatever appears. Like you can actually interact with them because they're like walking around in the world. And I liked that game. And as for books, I recently finished Valiant Ladies, and that was a really good one. That's
That's a swords
Swords and
Sapphics
Sapphics book.
book.
Like
Ooh.
there's like no other way to even describe it. Like it's two Chilean Sapphics who are swashbuckling swordswomen, and they are kind of solving a mystery together and also um uh finding love together. It's very good. I think you guys should read it.
I think we should.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank
Oh.
you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah.
It's been awesome. Any last remarks?
Before this gets cut short,
Yeah.
shout out
Shout out beverages.
shout out beverages.
Shout out Swords. Shout out
Live
Sapphics.
Fix.
Shout out Swords and Sapphics podcast.
Yeah.
Shout out podcasts.
Shout out Librorians podcast.
Shout out Librorians podcast.
You can find that wherever you get your favorite podcasts, including Spotify.
Yep. And tune into our channel for the second half of this podcast, in which we are going to
Ask less poignant and cool
yeah,
questions.
we're gonna give them a taste of their own medicine and interview them right back.
And we're not going to be nearly as funny or intellectual about it.
No.
Well, these questions are funny and not intellectual at all. So
Okay.
That's my brand.
perfect. Perfect. All right. So
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
of course.
Sure.
Of course.
They were really fun to talk to, and
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to have to be listening to the
Yeah.
podcast. Although
I'm a little worried
depends
because
what
they're gonna
books.
be if they're gonna be hating on Akatar, I know I might have to skip those.
Yeah. I was very intrigued when I saw they put out the light
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
So
Which
I'm
is
gonna
gonna be good for me because I started to be sort of tempted to pick it up because there was a fun art where she was like leaning on the wall and he was like covering her with his body and there were like arrows sticking out of his back. Like he was taking that for her. I was like,
interesting.
But then I saw some bad stuff again. I was like, no. But then there was similar fun art. I was like, But
Yeah.
no, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that.
No, I mean, no.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've not heard many good things about that book at
Yeah.
all. Although then again, I'm surprised it even has fan art in that case. But there's a reader for I mean, there's a book for everybody, and there's a reader for every book.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
One thing that surprised me was like their experience of being librarians, because I have a friend who will be listening to this called Jane, and she works in a library, and she tells me some stories. Like I think that maybe it's in a less suburban area, but it's but also apart from like the difference in patrons and like how that is, libraries here are not that exciting. Like there's nothing D&D or anything like extra stuff.
I was
Like
about to say the same thing.
yeah, we'll probably get a book club, and maybe in the city like there'll be more events on and stuff.
Yeah.
But for like a suburban area, not
Here they do like movie nights
Oh, really?
sometimes, but only in like the central library, which is in the next to an old town square.
Yeah.
But it's not at all that exciting. And there's only like 2 or 3 very old women at each
Yeah.
like little library, and it's not fun to be there, and the state of the books is pretty disgusting.
Yeah. I mean, last time I went to the library near my house, the computers were like from the 1990s.
Yeah.
They were those big fat grey things with
Yeah, same.
Internet Explorer.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting, but I'm glad that, you know, those places exist,
Yeah.
especially with queer-friendly staff and
Yeah.
things. I would like to visit their library.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like I as a kid, because I had a library right next to my school, I spent a lot of time there. Just because like every day I was leaving with like 6 books and returning
Yeah.
them the next day and taking 6 more. And I guess like if it was the same as their library, it would completely change my life and the trajectory of
Yeah.
it. Are you kidding me?
Honestly, the library was my favorite place growing up. I used to get all the Lemony Snicket books.
Is that a character?
It's Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I associate the library with those books still.
Get it. There used to be like these like 2 or 3 series with like a children's detectives, and you had like a little in each book there was added like a magical magnifying glass. And it was like this showing you some hidden pictures on the pages and stuff, and you like had to figure out the case with them. And it was very fun. It was like very fun mystery stuff.
Yeah.
I love those. But I could read like 3 or 4 a day in
Yeah.
the evening. It was very quick. Yeah.
I used to get the Goosebumps books as well, and they were the interactive ones where you made the decision and it told you which page to go to.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I never read anything like that.
It was really fun.
Yeah. I was also getting a lot of witch comic books.
Mm.
I love those girls.
Yeah.
Anything else you'd like to add before we go?
No, I'm sleepy. I have nothing left.
Yeah.
I've got nothing left.
Well, we'll be taking a small break now throughout May,
Yeah.
and we'll be back on 5th of June with Rachel's interview.
Not mine.
No,
Rachel
but you'll be there
McQueen.
also.
I will be there, but I'll be the interviewer, not the interviewee.
Yeah. Yeah,
We're talking to another Rachel again.
like that. There's many Rachels. I
Yeah.
feel like
And it
at
will be-
some point we should do something like a Rachel discount type of thing.
Yeah. And it will be Pride Month, so we're hoping to give you some good episodes in June as well.
Yeah. So until next time.
Support women's rights.
But most importantly, support women's wrongs.
Unless they're banning books.
And
Because
especially
they-
when they're going to a library.
Yeah.
And we shall see you later, alligator.
In a while, crocodile.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to Swords and Sapphics. You can enjoy a new episode every Wednesday.
While waiting, you can visit our website, swordsandsuffix.com, and find lots of articles, interviews, and guest pieces.
Feel free to contact us with any requests, questions, or inquiries through a form on our website or directly to our email, swordsandsuffixpodcast@gmail.com.